Alright, what's going on, y'all? So today, we are going to be talking about my run in the Knoxville Regionals. So, I did go to Knoxville Regionals, and I ended up going 6 wins and 3 losses, finishing in 125th place and getting, 40 CP towards Worlds, which, for me is still a bit of a stretch at this point, but getting points was an achievement for me, which I'm very proud of. And, it was, to date, actually my best run in a regional. I do think I could have done well at Orlando. It just, when I really reflect on what happened at Orlando, I think deciding to run a slow Dondozo really disbenefited me, because there were so many times where just, if I had gone first, I would have got the KO first, or I wouldn't have got burned, or, there's a bunch of factors that goes into it, right? But, we did end up doing pretty well at this regional, and you can kind of see, like, a quick breakdown of how things went before we get into the more specifics, right? But so we went win, loss, win, win, loss, loss, win, 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 right? So started off 3-1, which was really nice. After that went from 3-1 to 3-3, which, had me a little bit disheartened, but we ended up winning every single round after that and finishing 6-3, which was really nice. And, we're just going to kind of jump into, the match by match and try to see what I can remember about how the matches went in general, right? But, thank you to those of you who are tuning in, of course. If you enjoy, consider giving a like or subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Here's the rental code, if anyone wants the rental code really quick, but, we're going to jump into it at the end. We're going to talk about the rental code and how I felt like maybe, were all my moves perfect, or could I have changed anything? You know what I mean? But we'll get into that, right? So, what I want to do is get into this stuff. Starting with this, because this was our first round. So, yeah, we started off on a 2-1 facing Colton Davis. Colton had Arcanine, Iron Hands, Garganacl of his own, Great Tusk, Talonflame, and Palafin. So this was actually an extremely similar team to my team, which I actually thought he had the kind of better matchup, if we're being honest. I was really afraid of what the Palafin could do, because Palafin definitely has the potential to just kind of wipe through my team. I do have my own Iron Hands, of course, which can be a big problem for Palafin, but he has Arcanine to burn my Iron Hands, and I could just Fire Terra, but why are you gonna Fire Terra Iron Hands and then become bad against Palafin, right? So Palafin actually does pose a huge problem for my team on this team comp that they have specifically, which is kind of almost a mirror matchup, right? So I don't remember too much about how the first 2 matches shaked up against Colton. I just remember that I think I won the first one, he won the second one, and then, what I do remember is that in turn 1 of game 1, I clicked Will-O-Wisp on Great Tusk, and I clicked Icy Wind, and I missed the Will-O-Wisp, and I missed the Icy Wind on one of the Pokemon as well. So, it was not a good start, and we did still end up winning that game. We lost the second game for whatever reason, and game 3 was looking very dicey. I remember that I just, for whatever reason, was able to take out Palafin, because he didn't, what happened was he made a split targeting decision. So he targeted Iron Hands with one thing and targeted, I'm guessing, Garganacl with another thing. They both survived at low, and that gave me the chance to knock out the Palafin with a wild charge, even though I was burned or something. And then Garganical was able to click recover or salt cure or whatever it was going to do, right? So if they had double targeted the Iron Hands that turn, there's a pretty good chance I would have lost, but because of that, we were able to take out the Palafin, which was a huge threat for me. And then Garganical was kind of able to get into one of those end games that Garganical is really made for, right? Like, you know, you get it into the position where it's like, well, all the threats are gone, and like they're just not going to get rid of it. So, you know, we were able to take that one, but it was a pretty crazy set. Going on to round 2, we faced Rowan Hall, which was definitely our most well-known opponent of the day. And, you know, getting a 0-2 against Rowan didn't really feel good, but, you know, we talked about it afterwards, you know, on day 2 while we were watching all the top cut stuff, and, you know, he definitely said, like, my team was a lot scarier than the first team, and he knew that I was a more seasoned player than his first opponent, so he knew he had to, like, play well, or play, you know, have his head in the game, right? But what really happened was I just wasn't reading any of his protects, and that really disbenefited me. Like, in game 1, I just didn't read, like, almost any protects at all, and got really disbenefited by, like, let's say he protects Great Tusk and just clicks, like, Make It Rain, where I thought he was gonna do, like, protect Goldango and use Great Tusk, you know, like something like that, right? And so I definitely fell for a lot of his protects in game 1. Game 2, I remember I started a lot stronger. Like, turn 1 and turn 2, I pretty much read his protects right away because it was a lot more obvious. Well, I mean, it was obvious in game 1 as well, I guess, but, like, I wasn't trying to make the hard reads, whereas in game 2, I felt a little more confident just being like, okay, like, he's gonna protect this, target this, blah, 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 right? And that went well for the first few turns, and then the Goldango came back out, which, for me on this team comp, Goldango is one of the biggest threats. So there was a turn where it was, I think, again, like a Great Tusk Goldango situation, and I needed to click, like, Dazzling Gleam, and I needed to click Dazzling Gleam so that I would get the spread damage on Great Tusk, but I clicked, like, Shadow Ball into Goldango plus something else, and we ended up, you know, having the Goldango protect, and whatever happened, you know. So, like, I don't remember too much of the specifics, but I do remember, you know, enough to say that I definitely remember that happening, and that pretty much sealed the deal on game 2 after I was starting to get into what I felt like was a bit more of a comeback position, right? Sorry that I didn't, like, actually say what the team was. I guess you guys had a chance to look at it, right? But yeah, the Volcarona bundle, Mousehold, Dragonite, Great Tusk, and the Goldango. I thought this was a really cool team. I'm pretty sure Rowan finished, I guess we could look back at it possibly, right? Rowan finished either 4-5 or 6-3, or 5-4 or 6-3, yeah. So Rowan finished 6-3 as well. And yeah, he definitely had a cool team, so GG's to him for sure. And let's go on to round 3. So round 3 was a bit more of a commanding win. You know, we did go 2-0, which was really nice. Our opponent, Jonathan, had Iron Bundle, Iron Valiant, Amoonguss, Roaring Moon, Great Tusk, and the Talonflame. So, you know, we're definitely still seeing the Talon Tusk being a strong or, like, prevalent combination, right? I think I've faced Talon Tusk so far on every team, right? And he kind of didn't feel confident about his team after our win, after us beating him 2-0, and we kind of talked about it and talked about some possible like item changes that could have made the team a little more solid. I think if I remember correctly, it was like Booster Energy, Roaring Moon, Focus Sash, Bundle, Life Orb, Life Orb Valiant, AV Tusk. It might have been Sash Tusk, but I think it was, I thought the Sash was on the bundle, and so like there was just ways that because of his item choices, I was able to play around the team pretty comfortably, and I really wasn't too worried about it. The Sash wouldn't have actually mattered on the Iron Valiant because I remember he only used it in game 2, and it did, live. It did take 2 hits to knock it out anyways, so like, while it is frail, and I understand why you might want Life Orb on it, I just felt like if he had switched his items around a little, his team would have been a little more threatening. And I don't remember the specifics of this one too much, but we just didn't really have too much of a problem with it. Like, it's the Roaring Moon didn't give us a lot of problems. The Amoonguss I don't think even came out in any games, or if the Amoonguss did come out, it was in like game 1 and I taunted it right away, so it didn't even matter, right? But so yeah, we dealt with that, and it was big GGs. Everyone I faced was really cool, and it was a great tournament all in all. Like, not only was it my best performance, but like I had a really good time. So shout outs to all the homies. Like, shout outs to XC Zach, who was his first regional, and we met up like just randomly right when I got to the venue, and I was like, yo, we were trying to meet up anyways, so that was cool, and it was nice to meet him, and pretty much everyone else besides a few other people I had already met before, so that was nice. Going on to our 4th round, we faced Randy Lawson with a Arcanine, Goldango, Meowscarada, Iron Hands, Dragonite, and Grimmsnarl. So I was definitely pretty threatened by this team, I'm not gonna lie. Like, we know that the Goldango can be a problem. The Meowscarada is really good at countering Garganacl in the right positions, so we have to be really careful about that. I'm also running a Adamant Talonflame, which we were going to end up talking about when we do the team review. But because I'm running Adamant Talonflame, we actually get outsped by things like Meowscarada, which I was kind of trying to make a hard meta call and say that I wouldn't really see any Meowscaradas, so I was like, I'm really not that worried about it. Like, yeah, I know Zach's running Meowscarada, like, I've heard like 1 or 2 other people talk about it, but I didn't think it would be prevalent enough that like I would have to face one, and I would have to actually like adjust my Talonflame to it, because you're always getting outsped by bundles and Fluttermanes anyways, so like there's not that much in the meta besides like a really offensive Mousehold that's gonna be like outspeeding you anyways, right? So game 1, I don't exactly remember what happened. I feel like he started like Meowscarada Arcanine or something, and we were kind of just able to outposition it by making good targeting decisions with like Bundle, Flutter. I probably started Talonflame because I was starting Talonflame quite a lot. I actually remember this was, I think, versus him. So in game 1, I literally just clicked like Tailwind, Earthquake for the first few turns. Like, I clicked Tailwind, I clicked Earthquake over and over again, and just like kind of did what I had to do with either Talonflame or like repositioning, and we were able to eventually just whittle him down in game 1. And then in game 2, I made a really strong read on what was going to happen, which ultimately won us the game, and it was a read that I was definitely proud of. So he started Grimmsnarl Goldango, and I figured, since I started Talonflame Great Tusk again, I figured he thought it would be a pretty safe play for me to just click Tailwind Earthquake. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm running a Jolly Tusk, which is going to outspeed Goldengo anyways. He can't Thunder Wave the Great Tusk. He could Thunder Wave the Talonflame, which would be a little bit scary for me. But I didn't think he would, which he didn't, right? So he clicked Reflect and, like, Make It Rain or something. And I clicked Flare Blitz and Earthquake. And the Flare Blitz took Goldengo, even through Protect, down to like down to like 1/3 health, and the Earthquake was able to just finish it off, right? And then from there, you know, we just kind of chipped down the Grimmsnarl, took care of the Meowscarada in the back, and whatever was left was able to just get taken care of by Garganacl. So it was a really clean set, and it was one that I definitely felt good about. And so, you know, at that point we were 3-1, feeling good, feeling fine, and I did make a tweet about it, which, you know, I think is something that me personally, I don't like doing. I feel like it's kind of like a jinx to make a tweet and be like, what's up, I'm doing good, like, I feel good about it, which is totally what I did, like, and then what happened? I lost the next two, so let's talk about it. So, in the next one, we went up against Philip Cohen, which had a Tyranitar, Sylveon, Iron Bundle, Gothitelle, Great Tusk, Talonflame team. So again, we are still facing lots of Talontusks, but now we've got T-Tar, Gothitelle things going on. And Tyranitar, it turned out, was actually one of the worst matchups for my team, even though, you know, obviously, like, we have Will-O-Wisp, we have Iron Tusk, you know, we have all these things, right? You would think Tyranitar wouldn't be my biggest problem, but what turned out was, yeah, Tyranitar's a pretty big problem, and the set that everyone was running was AB Tyranitar with Crunch, Rock Slide, Low Kick, and Flying Terra Blast. So the Low Kick was able to deal with Garganacl when I wasn't Terra'd. The Crunch was able to deal with Garganacl when I did Terra, which, you know, Dark is one of the best types for actually dealing with Garganacl because Ghost is mitigated by the Purifying Salt. You know, you get the half damage with it. So, you know, the Crunches from T-Tar are really only mitigated by either not Terra-ing or Will-O-Wisping it. And what happened was, in Game 1, it was very, very close. I had it down to Gothitelle and Tyranitar with something in the back, I think Great Tusk, and my Talonflame and Garg on the field with maybe something else in the back. Or no, it was Fluttermane and Garg with something else in the back. And so this was like a pretty defining turn. No, it was okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying. There's a lot to think about, obviously, right? But it was Talonflame Flutter on the field with Garganacl in the back, and I had originally been planning on taunting the Gothitelle and just clicking Dazzling Gleam, and then halfway through the turn, I was like, well, why don't I just click Shadow Ball into Gothitelle? Like, I'm just gonna KO it anyways, like, they're probably not gonna tear a Gothitelle. But, because Fluttermane was my second Pokemon, I didn't go back and undo the taunt. So, I basically Shadow Ball KO'd the Gothitelle, and then I clicked Taunt into their AV T-Tar instead of Will-O-Wisping it. And they clicked Rock Slide, they KO'd they probably got a double KO, and we just weren't able to pick up the endgame with Garganacl, right? So, it would have been a very close game if I had actually gotten that Will-O-Wisp off on the T-Tar, and I remember that, like, it actually would have allowed me to win, but, you know, we didn't get that. game 2, we were able to just kind of like position correctly and get that Garganacl in the position that it needed to be in. Burn the T-Tar early on. If Sylveon's there, Sylveon's actually not really a problem for Garg. It's more about the other things. So, we had to deal with everything accordingly, and I don't really remember how that game went, honestly. Like, it was a dub, let's just say that. Game 3 was extremely, extremely close. It came down to, we did burn the Tyranitar very early on, which was, for me, I felt like as long as I burn the T-Tar, I have a really high chance of winning if I play correctly. And, that basically was how a lot of my T-Tar matchups ended up being. But, so we burned the T-Tar early on. We whittled it down to a Terra-style Garg versus T-Tar Tusk endgame. We had the Tusk Salt Cured, so the Tusk was whittling down. We had to Salt Cure the Tyranitar, so we did have to like actually take a turn to get things rolling still. And so with the Tusk about to chip itself out, we do the Salt Cure on the T-Tar. Maybe it was the Tusk had just chipped itself out, but we hadn't Salt Cured yet. So, what I just remember was my Garganacl had like either 67 or 72 health, and I clicked Salt Cure. The Tyranitar clicked Crunch and brought us down to 27 health. I'm pretty sure it was 27. It might have been 23 just because I'm trying to think about if leftovers would actually take me up to this amount. But it might have been 67 to 23. What I remember is we went for Protect from whatever amount in 20s we were at. Well, we got the leftovers healing first after the 20s. We went for Protect again. It brought us up to 47. It was one Protect. Sorry, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, right? But like, we got the recovery off the initial turn. We did the Protect. We got up to 47 health, and I was basically just like, okay, so Crunch did like mid 40s to like 42 to 45, I think. I don't exactly remember quite what it was, but I felt like there was maybe a better chance of me living that Crunch and getting a recover off than me getting a double Protect, which ultimately would guarantee the game if I don't get crit the next turn, right? And so I decided not to go for the double Protect, which again is a 30% chance, but the Crunch was able to do that 40%, the 47 health, and got that win for Philip. So GG's to him. He was a good sir, and the T-Tar was definitely something I struggled with. So going on to round 6, we faced Anthony Jones with a very scary T-Tar team of his own, with T-Tar, Houndstone, Bundle, Goldango, and Talontusk. So if I'm being honest, I felt like his team was the most difficult team that I faced for my team to beat. Like, I know that we didn't play very well versus Rowan, and that's something that I had to deal with, right? Like, I just didn't call like any crucial reads that I needed to make, but like, this team was very hard to beat for my team, and he just played really well. Like, the T-Tar came in early, put on the pressure it needed to, was able to switch out if it needed to get the sand back up in late game. He had the Talontusk too to put on Talontusk pressure, Goldango to deal with my Flutter Mane decently well, and the Bundle to also keep up with my speed control, right? So like, his team really had all the components that it needed. And then what he was able to do in a lot of the games that were very like defining for him was basically just bring in the Houndstone in the end and just click last respects and stuff and just dunk on me. So like, his Houndstone was Will-O-Wisp, Protect, Last Respect, and Snarl, if I'm correct. I don't think it was Shadow Sneak, but either way, I mean, the Houndstone was really, really hard for me to beat in the end game, and like Last Respects did like 80% to my Garganacl even when I didn't Terra, if I remember correctly, so I was kind of just like, yeah, like, you got it, bro. like I can't beat this team with my team right now. But I guess we took a game off him. Like, I don't remember specifically, like, I don't remember the specifics of this one too much, so it was kind of just a GG's, and, you know, we had to take it for what it was. I thought his team was really scary, and it got the results against my team, so. Going on to my 7th round. This was actually my favorite round just because not only was the team so unique, but we actually faced this opponent in Orlando in my second to last or very last round, and he kind of just wiped the floor with against my my Dondozo Amrarouge team with this exact team actually. So our opponent was VGC Sud, and he used literally this exact same team at Orlando, but, you know, he used the team again obviously here, and we got to face him in round 7, so it was a pretty close set. I felt like his team is really scary because it's like Scarf or Specs, Iron Moth, and Scarf Gardevour. So a lot of the times, if people weren't prepared with a team that could answer it, he would be able to just start Iron Moth, Gardevour, and click like Sludge Wave Dazzling Gleam or Sludge Wave Moonblast or something, and just like kind of wipe the opponent's team off the field. And he also had Tinkaton, you know, which can be used very well next to the Iron Moth for Sludge Wave things. And the one thing that I did give him, I guess, advice on for his team is that none of his Pokemon had Protect, and while he was able to position around me in Orlando, just not having Protect was really easy for me to play around in this case, and it just made me feel really comfortable about what I was able to do. Like, he didn't really lean into the Gothitelle, the Gardevoir Moth stuff, which I was definitely a little scared of, but I don't remember how the endgames shook up. I just remember that ultimately, because he didn't have Protects on his Pokemon, I was able to whittle things down. But I do remember Tinkaton definitely came to most of the games. Meowscarada came to a lot of the games. I don't remember seeing a Azumarill too many times. No, Azumarill did come. I remember Azumarill giving us a bit of a problem for the Tusk, but we were just kind of able to play around it. And, you know, again, like, VJ's team was really cool, and he's a really cool guy, so GG's to him, but we just got the best of him this time, and so, you know, it was a 2-1 on that one, and it was big old GG's, so, you know, we were 4-3, and feeling a little bit better after the redemption. You know, the redemption felt better than anything else. After that, losing those 2 in a row, it was like, alright, we faced VJ again, we beat him this time, like, maybe things are looking up. And, you know, they were kind of right, because we got another win after that. We faced Steven Rich, who has his own channel, Sev. I don't know if it's Sev Plays on YouTube or what, but I mean, I'll link his channel in the thing anyways, and, you know, give him some love. We definitely want to support each other, right? And support our small content creators. So, yeah, Steven was running Roaring Moon, Torkoal, Bramblin, or Bramblegast, which he said didn't do anything but provide moral support, Fluttermane, Indeedee, and Amrarouge. So, he was definitely feeling a little disheartened after our battle, but I had the tech. and I was really happy that this was one of the matchups where I specifically got to display something that I crafted to deal with something, right? So, like, my Flutter main has Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Trick Room, and Imprison. And what I was able to do was, in game 1, I led Garganical Flutter main and just clicked Wide Guard Imprison on turn 1. And he clicked, like, Trick Room Follow Me or Trick Room Expanding Force or something with Indeedee Amrarouge, and of course it didn't do anything because I clicked Wide Guard Imprison, right? And after that, I literally just clicked Dazzling Gleam Wide Guard for like 4 turns and forced him to either reposition or do something about it, you know what I mean? Because at that point, Amrarouge literally can't do anything, and the only thing that Indeedee can do is click Psychic, which is doing kind of pitiful damage on both of our Pokemon. So, like, we were able to just really whittle him down and give him no options in the first game. And so, like, he switches out Indeedee or Amrarouge for Flutter main. Flutter main comes in, all it knows is Protect, Perish Song, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleam and Shadow Ball, so it can't attack. All it can do is click Perish Song and Protect. So I literally, like, I destroyed 3 out of 4 of the Pokemon that he brought just by clicking Wide Guard Imprison. And then after he clicked Perish Song and did all that repositioning, I kind of just went on the offensive, didn't even really worry about the Perish Song, started whittling things down. Torkoal was the last Pokemon, and Torkoal just really wasn't that big of a problem for Garganical. Like, he was making really smart calls with, like, clicking Earth Power instead of clicking, Eruption or whatever, but ultimately we were able to deal with it, right? So, game 2, I tried to make a hard call, basically, and say, like, well, why would he lead Indeedee Amrarouge again when I'm clearly wrecking him with my leads? So I tried leading, I don't know, like, Talontusk or, like, I don't know what I led, but he just won that game with whatever he was doing, so GG's to him. I think he led, like, Flutter main Roaring Moon or something. It was definitely something a lot more creative into what I was doing and didn't leave me a lot of options, right? So he took the second game, and then I decided to just go back to the reliable. In game 3, I did Flutter main Garganical again. He did adjust. In game 3, he led Bramblegast, and he led, like, Bramblegast Flutter main or Bramblegast I think it was Bramblegast Flutter main. So he led Bramblegast Flutter main, and I was expecting him to Terra the Bramblegast, which was going to be a problem, but I kind of just made a hard call to avoid the Flutter main. I don't remember if he clicked Protect or Perish Song on turn 1, because, like, I know he tried to call that I was going to click Imprison, but I double targeted the Bramblegast with a Shadow Ball Salt Cure, and we were able to take out the Bramblegast, and it just wasn't really a problem. So after we got rid of the Bramblegast, we, only had 3 things to deal with. He had Flutter main, brought out maybe Torkoal right away, or like Indeedee or something, and I just clicked Imprison, and we started doing what we had to do, right? So it turned out being one of my most dominant games, and I know he felt bad about it, and he was talking about how, like, he felt, like, super burnt out, and, like, he's like, oh, like, I'm 32, I need to, like, I'm just burnt out, blah, 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 but it's like, I mean, I'm 28, bro, like, I feel you, like, I know I look young, but you know, we're out here doing this thing, and you know, it can be disheartening when you don't get as good of results as you want, and I have been on the side of getting those bad results, you know, but even though he did end up dropping after our set, I think it would have been worth it for him to just kind of stick with it, you know. But it is what it is, and you know, either way, I still liked his team, and he was a good guy, and you know, check out his YouTube channel. So, going on to the last round of the day, we faced Jeffrey Yang, who this was his first regional, but using a very, very scary team. So this is kind of like a mixture of the two Tyranitar teams we faced before. This one's T-Tar, Sylveon, Iron Bundle, Arcanine, Gothitelle, and Great Tusk. So I really don't 100% remember how these games shook up. I remember Jeffrey being a very cool guy and having a lot of fun playing against him. Everyone got a kick out of my nicknames. A lot of people had really cool nicknames. So, you know, shout outs to all them. You know, everyone was bringing some really positive energy, which was really nice. There was one point where one of the people helping everyone, you know, move accordingly through the venue, like, got mad at us for standing somewhere they thought we shouldn't be standing, and then like an 8-year-old went and stood in the same place, and he was like super rude to the kid, like telling him like move, do you see anyone else standing there? No. I was just like, I like kind of like yelled over from where I was like, yo dude, like be nice, like he's 8. But yeah, so besides that one little thing, everyone had super positive energy, and it was a great time, right? But this definitely did not feel like a good matchup for me to go into as my last matchup. Like I was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm probably gonna lose, aren't I? But you know, at least because we had faced it a few times before, we had a game plan, and that game plan was, you know, burn the Tyranitar, try to deal with the other stuff, and hope you come out on top. We did take game 1, which was really nice. You know, we got the T-Tar burn, we dealt with things accordingly, got the Salt Cure end game. Game 2 was starting to shape up very well in my favor, and then I remember I basically just made a bad Protect call. Like, it was more so like, I saw the Protect, didn't want to be too careful, and then should have been careful, right? And I let the Great Tusk survive for another turn. It got a crucial KO, put me in a bad position, and so we lost game 2, and I was kind of like, oh god, like that could have just been a 2-0, like we're done, we get CP, like we're fine. Like, you know what I mean? At least we might get CP, because not every 6-3 actually gets CP at this event, unfortunately. And as you saw, we were in 125th, and only up to 128 get CP, so like, if, like, I almost didn't get CP, even still getting 6-3, and I would have been honestly pretty upset if I didn't. Like, after this being my best performance, it would have felt bad, honestly. It wouldn't have been any sort of, you know, cherry on top. It would have been, like, the opposite of the cherry on top, you know what I mean? But what ended up happening was, yeah, so we were not able to take game 2 because I made a bad call. And then game 3 was really not shaping up my way either, unfortunately. But what happened was he had Sylveon and Gothitelle on the field together or something. And I clicked like Shadow Ball to KO the Gothitelle. And then I freeze dried the Sylveon. And the Sylveon got the freeze dry freeze. And it felt really bad for them, honestly, because like the freeze dry freeze really did change the momentum of the game in a very significant way. And it might have actually been, I think at that point I had Iron Hands and Iron Bundle were my only 2 Pokemon left, versus like Sylveon, low health, Gothitelle, or something. I don't remember what it was. Sylveon, low health, something. Maybe it was Tyranitar. Sylveon, T-Tar, and Great Tusk in the back. So what I had to do was I got rid of the T-Tar with Iron Hands by calling their Terra. I clicked Freeze Dry into Goth for that little bit of damage, kind of assuming that I was just going to lose, right? But we got the freeze, which felt really bad for them. And from that point, they kind of just, you know, had to bring out Great Tusk, and it turned out that either we were speed tying with Sylveon and Iron Hands, or my Iron Hands was just faster than Sylveon. But on the next turn, we didn't actually even get to see the freeze go off, and I was able to just Wild Charge KO the Sylveon and whittle away. If the T-Tar was left, we whittled it away, and then the Freeze Dry just KO'd the Great Tusk because it already had a little bit of chip on it. So things just kind of fell into place after that freeze, and I felt really bad for getting the freeze because, like, it was Jeffrey's first regional too, and it would have been really nice for him. Well, it wasn't my first regional, but, like, it would have felt good for him to win his first regional, or to get CP for his first regional, excuse me. But, I was ultimately willing to accept the turn of events. I have lost to RNG. I've won to RNG, and I felt like I played well enough to accept it. So, like, it happens, but it was a really good run overall. I was really proud of it, and, you know, just GG's to all of them, and thank you to everyone that I faced for just bringing the good energy and having a good time with me. So, before we just send it off, I want to really quick, within like a few minutes, just talk about the team that we used and any sort of adjustments that I might have made. So thank you all for sticking in. Again, consider liking and subscribing if you're not already. And I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my face in this video, because I know we haven't been showing face a lot recently. So this was our team. It's called Itnox, not called Dragacult. That's just the way the team thing goes. The rental team, you know, code and all is right. But right off the bat, we never really benefited from the Fire Terra Fire Punch on Iron Hands. I do think Grass Terra Heavy Slam probably would have been the right way to go, but ultimately the Iron Hands did end up fulfilling a good role on the team and allowing us to deal with some things at very crucial times. It was actually really good for helping us deal with T-Tar, even though T-Tar was still kind of a problem for us, right? The bundle was great, no problems with the bundle. It was a perfect set. It's a very standard set at this point, like boost your energy to be the fastest, 252, 252, timid, because you want to be moving fastest, and hitting hard, and, you know, you get the Ghost Terror to stop yourself from being faked out if you need to as well. The Garganacl was great. I do understand why people are running just a little bit of defense investment and taking a little bit off of special defense. I don't remember if there was any cases where I really needed the special defense bulk, but there was definitely cases where I needed the defense bulk, like versus Philip, right? Like, if we had a little more defense in the end game versus Philip with the crunch with the T-Tar, we just would have lived anyways, and we would have been able to recover, and it wouldn't have mattered, right? So, like, I think so far at this point, like, you know, maybe just the Grass Terra Heavy Slam Iron Hands, a little more defensive bulk on Garganacl. The Great Tusk was fine. We never really needed the Ground Terra, I think, but the Ground Terra was really nice to have, and sure, you could maybe switch it to Steel Terra. That's an adjustment consideration. It's not something that I felt like ever really became something that came into play, like I said, right? But, like, of course, there are instances where, sorry, my computer was making a bunch of sounds right there. It started trying to do a bunch of checks for dumb things that don't matter, because that's what computers do. But yeah, so I mean, I think there's cases where Steel Terra can be really nice on Great Tusk. There's cases where that extra damage for the Ground Terra can be really nice. And I just don't remember if I ever actually needed my Ground Terra to get that extra damage for these games, but it's something to think about. With the Fluttermane, I liked the Fluttermane set. There was nothing wrong with it. I did feel like there was times where I actually would have benefited from Fire Terra Fluttermane instead of Steel Terra Fluttermane, and that was primarily against like the Amrarouge team. If the Amrarouge had Armor Cannon over Heat Wave, because in that case I click Fire Terra, Imprison, Wide Guard. If he clicks Armor Cannon, it still doesn't do a lot, and we, get the end game that we need, hopefully, right? So yeah, the Fire Terra on Fluttermane could have been nice, and the Steel Terra on Talonflame didn't do anything. I definitely understand why people are running Ghost Terra Talonflame, so that's the only other adjustment that I think I would have made. I think the Steel Terra was important for countering Tyrannitars, and that's ultimately why I had it, but this is just what ended up being the best for me. So, I also felt like Flare Blitz was a really good call on my Talonflame because it hits Goldengos, it hits Kingambits, even though we didn't face any. It hits a Moongus, which, I mean, Brave Bird hits too, but the amount of more things that Flare Blitz can hit for compared to Brave Bird made it a better call for me, even though you get Gale Wings with Brave Bird Gale Wings, right? But like, for me, it didn't matter. Like, Talonflame's already fast, and the Flare Blitz was, it was the call, and it was what I needed in a lot of instances instead of Brave Bird. So it was a really good call on my part, I think. The moveset was good. I do think that I would have rather had a Jolly Talonflame instead of Adamant, and I think that might have came into play once or twice, but I don't know if it ever won or lost me a game. So, all in all, really fun stuff. It was a really good tour, and again, thank you to everyone who made it a good time. Thank you to all of you for supporting me, and, we'll see what happens in the future in any online tours, or in Knoxville, or in Charlotte, and if I get to go to NAIC. So, thank y'all, and have a, hold on, let me find my outro first. Of course, we gotta find the outro. Alright, yeah, have a good one.